And what is the landscape now out there for talk radio?
Right now?
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, it's all right-wing talk. That's all it is. It's just been given over to political talk.
Just AM, right-wing conservative talk.
Right-wing shit. Yeah, and all of the really good shit that is happening now is in podcasting in terms of audio entertainment.
But in terms of jobs, are there jobs for guys like you or jobs for guys like me?
I don't think so. I think there's probably a job for you anytime you want it. Any morning show in this country would want to have
phone never rings.
Les Moonves told me he made a big mistake. And I think you should get the principals back together. And I think Paul Newman in the verdict. No, that's what I was doing anyway.
We got
stuffed up nose. Okay, so, yeah, he messed up with you, man. And, you and David Lee Roth. But more you. No.
In different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't believe you when you say the phone doesn't ring. It's probably ringing at your agent's office, but, really, seriously? I can't believe that because...
Well, some of it is, I think, I'm hoping that the success we've had over here makes people think that I'm just not going anywhere unless somebody backs up the Brinks truck and it hits another Brinks truck that was backing down after unloading.
I'll tell you one thing about radio, Adam, and you may have noticed this. I noticed it a lot. And I'm going to say this, and I mean that they hate talent in radio. They don't like talent. They don't like to pay talent. They don't want to have to pay attention to talent, and they don't want to have to even know that we're there. And when we became important to them, and the music wasn't cutting it anymore, it really pissed them off.
No, it's this thing, and I've talked about it a million times with Mike August. Television is talent-centric. They love talent.
Right on.
Comedy Central realizes they need Jon Stewart. Needed Jon Stewart. And pay accordingly. Mm-hmm. Same with, whomever, Jimmy, Leno, or now Colbert, whatever. They understand TV is the talent business. Radio is a format.
Yeah.
So what radio is, or what they think they are, they think they're the New England Patriots, which is you tear an ACL or shoot a guy in a parking lot, you're out, the next dude's up, and we'll just keep rolling along. Because what we are is Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick in a system. We have a system, and we roll people through. And that's true. That's the way they are. Radio thinks they're that. And as a matter of fact, if you come over and start being the star of the team, they don't like it, because it doesn't flow with their format.
Plug and play.
And frankly, I don't think they're smart enough to ever really understand or be aware of. And I used to talk to these guys all the time, like, this guy's a talent, and I'd see their eyes just roll to the back of their head.
It's Ruth, man.
Look, the entire time I was on K-Rock, it was never discussed. There was always, when it came time to leave Loveline, it was trying to get me out the door so we can get some young, fresh somebody in here to roll some calls for a change. I'd spend 20 minutes on one call.
Sure.
The idea was you got to roll calls, maybe a minute and a half. Jack Silver, he wasn't a fan of mine. I've never been in radio where there was the fans were the listeners.
That's right.
The people inside the radio station couldn't give a flying fuck, or probably confused.
But we're happy to take credit when the show did well.
Absolutely.
Or whatever did well.
Absolutely. And the thing about talent in radio, and Adam said it very well, it goes back to post-war where television was attacking everybody. The film business thought they were going out, and radio had to scale it down, and they had to become bottom line, and they had a salesman. They had one guy in the studio, play a lot of music and be really goofy, and they've stayed with that model, which is basically, that's a great analogy. The New England Patriots, we just plug one in and pull another guy out. Problem is, they're not winning championships anymore.
Right.
They're in last place now.
They need the players.
And when you say not smart enough, brother, you hit it right there. They're just not bright enough to understand that they are an entertainment medium if they want to be every bit as valid as television or film or books. But when I was doing Loveline on MTV, everyone at K-Rock hated it. I'd get a lot of crap for it. Like, where are you going? I gotta go to blah, and I'd go, hey, we're taking this format, we're putting it on MTV with Prime Demo for you guys.
This can only help.
They're playing it at every bar and every strip club and every place. It's always up on the TV at 11:30 at night, and that's the way we've been able to go from one affiliate to 100 affiliates as quickly, is because they could go, that show, yeah, my kid loves that show. Well, how would you like that show on your radio station?
Right on.
K-Rock hated the fact that I was doing that. Always. And it was a weird thing. It was always sort of counterintuitive. Like, I always felt like I would get some sort of basket of muffins at the end of the year going, thanks for doing this, for helping us, for moving this, and selling more affiliates. And it was always met with a certain amount of, we'll tolerate it, with a dusting of disdain.
Sure.
And I just realized that's always where radio has been for talent. And I don't know. I don't know if it's an element of telling your wife she could lose a few constantly as a strategy to not get her to ever go out and be with another man. Like, she's going to cheat on me if I don't convince her. I should keep her down. But Brian, it's by the way, it's pervasive. It starts at the top and it just floats all the way down to the bottom.
I think there's a lot of that.
Loveline, 10 years of Loveline. Was there any? I mean, we'd say things like, it was a weird thing. Like, our producer, Ann, would come in and go, we got syndicated show of the year. And I'd go, we did? And she'd go, yeah. I'd go, is there a trophy or a plaque or something? She'd go, yeah, it's in my office. And I'd go, well, could you bring it in? We were at Westwood 1. Yeah. Could you bring it in so we could take a look at it or put it up on the wall or something? She'd go, yeah, I'll see. And then a month would go by, and I'd go, we did win syndicated show of the year, right? And she'd go, yeah. I'd go, I know it's never discussed. I didn't talk about it with the GM or the program director or anything.
You're not shoving it in anybody's face.
The plaque never showed up. Like, I asked like 11 times, could you bring the plaque in? And it was like, I don't know where it is. And then it would never happen. Like, in the 10 years plus that I was there any discussion of, hey, that's some funny shit, or like, wow, that's...
No, there was no trophy case. There was no shelf, with the plaques or the whatever. I never saw anything like that.
How about just words of anything? Praise, anything, any kind?
Not that I was privy to.
Would you also go with me on this, that not only was there not any praise, that a lot of the conversation bordered on insulting in terms of, I had phone screeners look at me and go, hey, you're not the boss of me. Get out of my face.
Oh, dude.
And I've had the Lauren, junior producer Lauren, sort of come in and tell us what she'd learned about watching me do radio. And it's basically, she said, you don't have to be that smart. You don't have to go to college. It's who you know. And she ended it with, and you can never be fired, which implied in my mind that she thought I should be fired. And you can boss people around. And then she left the room.
That was your producer?
That was Junior. That was the junior
producer.
Well, yes. Am I making this up?
No, what I was privy to from my own personal experience, I was a phone screener for Loveline for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was a fan of the show before I started working for the show, and I would laugh at something Adam would say or something Adam would say. And Anderson, our engineer, would yell at me, don't laugh at that. He would constantly admonish me
Everybody's
for
a
laughing.
boss. That's the other thing. And you're right. I when I got to KFI, I said to somebody once, I said, even a guy that's turtle waxing like Howard's car thinks he's like, let me just tell you how it is around here, okay?
Right.
Before I even got in the building, interns, because the dog-eat-dog atmosphere at certain radio stations is such that everybody's climbing on everybody else. Even if you're like a 20-year veteran and you walk in and there's an intern there that's been in radio 6 months, let me, hey, this is mine, and you just, wait your turn.
The most incredible conversation, I've told you guys this before, but I'll say it to Phil. I had to tell my agent, James Baby Doll Dixon, who handles Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart and a bunch of other folk, Carson Daly, I think. Yeah, it's Carson. Anyway, bunch of guys.
Pretty heavy people.
Mm-hmm. I had to explain to him, baby, this is radio. And you don't get it. And all he did was TV, and TV is a bunch of, like I said, it's Sharon Levy over at Spike. It's like, hey, it's Adam. We love Adam. We want to do something with Adam. It's all talent.
Right
and again, you're Jon Stewart's guy.
Yeah.
You understand pretty easily with the millions of dollars and all the stuff. At a certain point, he called me and explained to me that he had it out with program director Jack Silver because I had wanted a jar of peanut butter. That I wanted they had the community refrigerator, and that because I was coming in there at 5:30 in the morning, sometimes around 8 a.m., I'd get a little peckish and need a little protein.
Right.
And I just wanted a jar of peanut butter.
Some protein. Yeah.
And I felt that it was okay that be paid for by the radio station and deducted at the end of the year from on their tax burden. And Jack Silver said, no way to the peanut butter. And this guy is coming from a world where every day when they shoot The Daily Show, there's a full craft service and catered lunch. And Baby Doll's not even mad. He's confused. It's like, we just spent how long on the phone talking about a $4 fucking jar of Jif? And the amount I make a year, I could have bought a fucking pallet of Jif that'd last you the rest of your life from Costco. What are we even doing?
Phil, did you ever have the pleasure of working with or around Jack Silver?
I did not. I did not. No, I met Jack, and I knew Bob more. I knew Bob for a long time. What Adam's talking about, thank God, because I've spent years talking to myself, my girlfriend, anybody to listen. I stand on a street corner. Can I just tell you, Miss, a story that I have about radio? And here's Adam finally articulating everything. So anybody who ever heard me say this, now you know it's true, because you're saying the stuff I've always said, man, which is, it is about control of the talent. And that's why I always come back to the same thing. They just hate talent, because talent gets in the way of what they're trying to do, which is keep this big machine turning.
I was so naive very early when I started off in radio. I went in and talked to the suits, and I said, you know what you guys should be doing, because this is my background. I said, you should be going down to the Groundlings Theater. The Groundlings is 2 miles away. There is just a bevy of young guys. They do 1,000 voices. They're trained
to get in the industry.
They're trained in improv. They'll think on their feet. They're super fast on their feet. And go down and check out a Groundlings show. And they were like, what? And I was like, it's Groundlings. It's a theater. And then they're like, huh? What, improv? Like, first off, they didn't even know what I was talking about. And then I said, well, go down there, because you can get a whole bunch of really funny guys. You get them super cheap, and gals, and they do voices. They're totally coached up and trained, and they're basically living off top ramen and, working as barbacks. Yeah. And you can get them for practically free. And I remember like a month later, I checked back. It's like, you ever go check out the what? Huh? The Groundlings, the theater. They got now. I tried about 3 more times, and I just realized, they don't give a shit. They're not going anywhere.
I was talking to, I was over at the Improv the other night talking to some people, because Christine Blackburn is a sweet lady who had her birthday party, but some people were talking about radio, and I said, do you know that Bill Murray and that John Belushi started with the National Lampoon Radio Hour, man? They were on the radio before they were on Saturday Night Live. Harry Shearer was doing Credibility Gap, and Michael McKean, those guys were on the radio. I said, that was great radio. And that's why I got into radio, because I want to be in firesign theater and all that stuff that I thought was cool. And it just got burned right out. And what we're left with now is the most god-awful, insufferable it's a criminal act, what radio is now with this nothing but nothing against right-wing politics, folks. It's just politics, and it's very ideologic. And it's as if the radio business is in the business to promote a certain ideology, no matter how shitty it sounds, and no matter how hackish the hosts are.
I don't know what happened to comedy in radio.
Radio, yeah.
When I knew, I think that I jumped the shark in radio was I had the very first affiliate we ever had on Loveline. Mm. We were on K-Rock, but the very first day I showed up, by the way, Ricky Rackman, who was told was a superstar. Mm.
Well, I think history has proven that correct.
That's radio, but it was explained that he was a superstar. But either way, first day I showed up was our first affiliate, 91X, which is a powerhouse station in San Diego. Yeah. It comes in better here than it does than K-Rock would if you go up in the hills, because they have a transmitter in Mexico, and evidently they're lawless over there. So they have 91X is the first. So Loveline was number one at 91X. Oh, we would have a 50 share and stuff. We'd have half the audience at 10 o'clock at night, And for a decade, number one on 91X. And then I found out at a certain point when I was doing a morning show, I found out that 91X's morning show had split, and they were looking for a new morning show. And I called the old program director who was program directing at 91X, Trip Reeb, who I had a good relationship with. Mm-hmm. And I said, Trip, you need a new morning show over at 91X. Hey, man. everyone at 91X loves me. I've been there for a decade, and we got a good morning show going on here. This is going to be easy.
Was it K-Rock? Were you at K-Rock or KLSX?
I was at KLSX, and we had about 13 affiliates.
Right on. Yeah.
And we were doing great, you know, great in Seattle, great in Vegas, great all over the place. And I said,
it's a well-produced show.
91X is going to be awesome. What a perfect marriage. And he's like, I want some local. I want it to be local. And I said, what do you mean local? Anyway, I think they ended up with a couple guys from Phoenix to move there. But I mean, you have a couple.
San Diego really well, yeah.
You have mediocre comedic talent, and I'm being very kind. Moving, and listen, I've never heard the show, but I'm just assuming mediocre talent because they're on the radio. Moving from Phoenix to come there because they're going to talk about the aquarium or Shamu or
the Chargers.
What's going on the Coronado Bay Bridge or whatever. Why don't you just have someone who's actually funny and who, by the way, we already settled this. It's been a decade of me not living in San Diego and being on 91X and getting incredible ratings.
Right
and he's like, we're going to go with Skippy and Frank. And I was like, all right, well, it's over.
No, they're dogmatically attached to the idea that it has to be local.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing about local, and it's a charming thing. We all remember local radio growing up, especially here in Los Angeles. Local radio was so beautiful because of the beach and because of KHJ. But we did a thing when I was in rock radio. It's the number one band in the city, and it always was Led Zeppelin, no matter where you went. The fact of the matter is the country listens to pretty much the same thing. Local's cool, but national that's good is really good, man. And the success that Rush Limbaugh's got.
But I would always explain to them, like, look, whatever your favorite TV show is, Seinfeld or whatever at the time, it doesn't take place in your city.
Not doing Cleveland material.
And it was filmed months in advance, and it just is better than the other shows. That's fine. So people all over the country can watch a guy who lives in an apartment that's very New York-centric because that's his world, or Everyone Loves Raymond, or whatever it is. There's 1,000. I didn't, when I used to watch All in the Family, I didn't know where Queens was. I had no idea where. I still, when I drive from Manhattan to the airport and I pass Queens, I still look off the freeway and look for sort of Archie Bunker's house, and I go, that's the neighborhood. But I was 11. I didn't care. That was his world.
Right, man. I think another thing is these program directors, see, you don't know what success is in radio. That's the other thing that used to drive me crazy. You do the greatest radio show that you've ever done in your life, and you realize it ain't getting it done. They can't sell it, or there's somebody else has got a problem with it, and you realize, well, what is success? And I think a Tripp was probably in his head saying, I need to develop my guys, because if I just bring in a syndicated show, what does that make me look like? Well, you brought in a winner, man. Yeah, because he thinks that somehow that's going to help him, which I got money says it probably didn't.
That's what happened with us and KLSX. Yeah. Jack wanted to do his guys, and we got me.
I think time has proven me correct.
And you gotta point out that what Adam Carolla has done, for those of you listening and didn't hear Adam, he went from radio to podcasting, and nobody's looked back since, I don't think. You and Mark Maron, I mean, basically radio has been blown right out of the freaking tub, man, by the success you guys have had. When the President of the United States would rather go and do a goddamn podcast than a radio show, I mean, I think the story's been told, and the success of your show.
We get Cousin Sal.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
and Santorin, some guy who works for Kimmel.
You probably make a lot more money than Mark, because I've seen his studio. I'm kidding, Mark. It's a great studio. It's a tool shed, but it's nice. No, but seriously, you two guys, and you especially, Adam, coming from the radio world with the fact that the geniuses there couldn't see what you were doing. You come over here, you're your own boss. You create your own production. You create your own sound, and you're a success.
Thank you, Phil Hendrie.
But what does it take to understand that? I don't know.